All right, picture this. It is a Saturday morning, the weather is gorgeous, and you finally step outside with a cup of coffee, thinking today is going to be a great day in the garden. And then you look down. There they are, dandelions poking up right in the middle of your lawn like they own the place. Little green invaders squeezing through every crack in your patio, and that one stubborn weed near the back fence that you swear you ripped out last weekend. Somehow back, somehow bigger. Sound familiar? Yeah, you are not alone. Here's the thing that nobody tells you early enough. The way most people deal with weeds is actually making the problem worse. They yank them by hand. They grab whatever random bottle is sitting on the shelf at the hardware store. They spray and pray. And 2 weeks later, they are right back where they started, wondering if weeds have some kind of personal vendetta against them. Spoiler alert, they kind of do. But not for the reasons you think. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to eliminate weeds from two completely different areas of your garden, your lawn and your patio. These are not the same battle. They require totally different strategies, different tools, and different products. Treat them the same way, and you will either damage your grass or waste your time on paving that keeps sprouting green. And once we have dealt with the weeds themselves, I am going to walk you through a prevention plan, the stuff that actually stops them from returning season after season, not just for a few weeks, for good. Stay with me until the end, because the prevention section is honestly where most people miss the boat. Getting rid of weeds is one thing. Keeping them gone, that is the real game changer. Let us get into it. Okay, let us talk about the lawn first, because this is where people make their biggest mistakes. You see a dandelion. Your immediate reaction is to reach down, grab it at the base, and pull. It comes out with a satisfying little pop. You toss it aside. Job done, right? Wrong. Completely wrong. Here is what is actually going on underneath the surface that you cannot see. A dandelion does not just sit on top of the soil like some shallow little nuisance. It sends a thick taproot straight down into the earth. We are talking 25 to 30 centimeters deep, sometimes even deeper in loose or sandy soil. When you grab the leaves and the stem and yank it out, that root barely moves. It stays right there in the ground, perfectly intact, perfectly healthy, and already preparing to send up a brand new shoot. So what feels like removing a weed is actually just giving it a haircut. You are trimming the top and leaving the engine running underground. Within a week, sometimes less, that same dandelion is back, often with a second shoot alongside it because you stress the root into producing even more growth. This is why some lawns seem to get worse the more you pull. Because mechanically, that is exactly what is happening. Every time you snap off the top, you are stimulating regrowth. It is basically gardening in reverse. So what should you do instead? If you have just a handful of weeds scattered around, the answer is a long-handled weeding tool. There are several designs out there, but the principle is the same. You push the prongs or the fork end down into the soil right alongside the root. Then you use the leverage of the handle to pop the entire plant out, root and all, cleanly, in one motion. This is a completely different result from hand pulling. When you extract the full root, that weed is done, finished. There is nothing left underground to regenerate from. This approach is perfect for the classic deep-rooted offenders: dandelions, plantain, dock, thistles. Anything that grows from a single central taproot. One clean extraction, and you are genuinely rid of it. But here's the catch. If your lawn has moved beyond a few scattered weeds and you are looking at entire patches of clover or creeping buttercups spreading across sections of your grass or a carpet of daisies that is slowly taken over, a hand tool is not going to cut it. You would be out there for days, and you still would not get them all. This is the point where you need to bring in chemical assistance, specifically a selective weed killer. Now, I want to pause here because this is one of the most common and most costly mistakes people make. There are two broad categories of weed killer: selective and non-selective. They sound similar. They are absolutely not. A selective weed killer is designed with a very specific purpose. It targets broadleaf plants, dandelions, clover, daisies, buttercups, plantain, while leaving grass completely unharmed. The active chemicals exploit fundamental biological differences between grasses and broadleaf plants, attacking one without affecting the other. A non-selective weed killer does not discriminate. Anything green that it touches dies. The most common active ingredient is glyphosate. If you spray that on your lawn thinking you are just hitting the weeds, you are in for a very nasty surprise. So, rule number 1. On the lawn, always use selective. Never non-selective. Read the label. Look for the word selective, or look for active ingredients like 2,4-D, mecoprop, or dicamba. These are lawn-safe weed killers. Timing and conditions matter more than most people realize when it comes to applying these products. Pick a day when the weather is dry and calm, no wind, no rain forecast for at least 24 hours afterward. Wind causes the spray to drift onto plants you do not want to kill. Rain washes the product off before it has time to work. Apply it according to the instructions on the packaging. Do not double the dose thinking it will work faster. You will just risk burning your grass. Then walk away and be patient. Within 2 to 3 weeks, the treated weeds will start to change color. They will yellow, curl, shrivel, and eventually collapse completely. The grass around them will naturally fill in the gaps over the following weeks. One application usually handles the majority of weeds. For particularly stubborn infestations, a second application 4 to 6 weeks later can mop up any survivors. And keep children and pets away from the treated area until the product has fully dried. That is typically a few hours, but check the label for specific guidance. Now here comes the part most people skip, and it is honestly the most important thing I'm going to tell you in this entire video. Once the weeds are dealt with, the single most powerful thing you can do to prevent them from ever returning is to raise your mowing height. That is it. No magic product, no expensive treatment. Just let your grass grow a little taller. Most people keep their lawn way too short. They think a closely cropped lawn looks tidier, and visually, maybe it does for a day or two. But what they are actually doing is exposing the soil surface to sunlight. Exactly what weed seeds need to germinate. Weed seeds are everywhere. They blow in on the wind, birds drop them. They are already in your soil waiting for the right conditions. And the number one condition they need is light. When you raise your mowing height to around 3 to 4 inches, your grass grows thicker and denser. The blades overlap and form a canopy over the soil surface. That canopy blocks the sunlight from reaching the ground. No light reaches the soil. No weed seeds germinate. Your lawn literally becomes its own weed defense system. The thicker and healthier your grass is, the harder it is for anything else to establish itself. So the next time you mow, raise that blade up a couple of notches. It might feel counterintuitive at first, but within a few weeks, you will notice the difference. Fewer weeds, thicker grass, less work for you. That is what we call a win on every level. All right, now let us shift gears entirely because the weeds growing between your paving slabs, along the edges of your patio, and through the cracks in your driveway are a fundamentally different problem. And they demand a fundamentally different approach. The biggest mistake I see here is people reaching for glyphosate-based weed killers and spraying them all over the patio. On the hard surface itself, sure, it works. But here is what inevitably happens. Some of that spray drifts. A light breeze catches it. You are a little careless near the edge where the patio meets the lawn, and suddenly you have dead brown patches of grass that take weeks or months to recover. So on hard surfaces, we take a different route entirely. And the good news is, the solutions for patio weeds are actually simpler, cheaper, and often more effective than any commercial product you can buy. I know this sounds almost too basic to work, but boiling water is genuinely one of the most effective weapons against patio weeds, and I am constantly surprised by how few people know about it. Here's the science. When you pour boiling water directly onto a weed growing between paving slabs, the extreme heat destroys the plant cells on contact. Not just the leaves and stem, the roots too. Boiling water penetrates down into the cracks and scalds everything it touches. The technique is simple. Boil a full kettle, carry it out to your patio. Pour the water slowly and precisely directly onto the weeds. You want it concentrated right on the plant, not splashing all over the place. Within a day or two, those weeds will be completely brown and dead. Pull out the remains, and you are done. It costs nothing. It is completely chemical-free. It leaves absolutely no residue, and it works every single time. For small to medium patio areas, this might be the only method you need. Just be careful where you step. Boiling water on paving can make the surface temporarily slippery. The second approach is one that has been passed around by experienced gardeners for decades, and the reason it keeps getting shared is simple. It works incredibly well. The recipe is straightforward. Take regular white vinegar. The cheap stuff from the supermarket is perfect. Add a generous amount of table salt, then add a small squirt of dish soap. Mix it together in a spray bottle or a watering can. Each ingredient plays a specific role. The vinegar is acidic, and it breaks down the waxy protective coating on the surface of the weed leaves. Once that coating is gone, the plant is exposed and vulnerable. The salt draws moisture out of the plant tissue, essentially dehydrating it from the inside out. And the dish soap acts as a surfactant. It helps the entire mixture cling to the leaves instead of sliding off. Apply it directly onto the weeds on a warm, dry day for maximum effectiveness. The warmth accelerates the dehydration process, and dry conditions mean the mixture stays on the plant longer without being diluted by rain. Now, here is the critical warning, and I cannot stress this enough. This mixture changes the chemistry of whatever soil it touches. It raises the acidity and the salt content, which makes it hostile to plant growth. That is exactly why it kills weeds so effectively between paving stones. There is no surrounding vegetation to worry about. But if this stuff gets onto your lawn, into a flower bed, or near the base of any plant you care about, it will damage or kill that too. So use it exclusively on hard surfaces. Keep it well away from any living garden areas. Think of it as a targeted weapon, not a broadcast spray. Sometimes, especially with weeds that have established deep root systems between tightly packed slabs, you need to go manual. A patio knife or a stiff wire brush is your best friend here. Work along the joints between slabs, scraping out the roots and clearing away all the organic debris that has accumulated. Weeds love those little pockets of decomposed matter that build up in paving joints. It is basically a ready-made seed bed. Clearing it out removes both the current weed and the environment that invited it in. For larger patio areas, or if you are dealing with a particularly overgrown driveway, a flame weeder is an absolute game changer. It is exactly what it sounds like. A handheld gas torch that you pass over the weeds. A brief exposure to the flame kills the plant tissue instantly. No chemicals involved, no residue left behind, no mess to clean up. Flame weeders are especially good for large expanses of block paving or gravel areas where weeds have spread extensively. One pass, and you're done. It is oddly satisfying too, if I'm being honest. Just be sensible with it. Keep the flame away from dry wooden fences, plastic edging, or anything flammable. All right, this is the section that ties everything together, because killing weeds is great, but if you do not address the reason they keep appearing, you are going to be right back out here doing the same thing again next month. On the lawn side, we have already covered the key prevention strategy. Raise your mowing height, let the grass grow thicker, and let it shade out any weed seeds before they get a chance to establish. Simple, free, and remarkably effective. But on the patio side, prevention requires one specific action that most people overlook entirely: And once you do it, you will wonder why you did not do it years ago. The gaps between your paving slabs are the #1 entry point for weeds. Windblown seeds land in those joints. Rain washes a little bit of soil and organic matter into the cracks. The seeds find the moisture and nutrients they need, and before you know it, you have got a fresh crop of weeds pushing through. The solution is to fill those joints completely so there is nowhere for seeds to land and take root. You have two main options here. The first is kiln-dried sand. This is a very fine, dry sand that you brush into the joints between slabs. It packs down tightly and fills the gaps, creating a barrier that weeds struggle to penetrate. It is cheap, widely available at any builder's merchant or garden center, and easy to apply. Just pour it onto your patio and sweep it back and forth with a stiff broom until the joints are completely full. The downside of kiln-dried sand is that it can wash out over time, especially in heavy rain or in areas with poor drainage. You may need to top it up every year or so. The second option, and this is the one I personally recommend, is polymeric sand. This looks and feels like regular sand when you apply it. You brush it into the joints in exactly the same way, but the difference is what happens next. When you wet polymeric sand with water, it activates a binding agent within the sand that causes it to set firm. It essentially hardens into a solid, flexible filler that locks into the joints. Water cannot wash it away. Seeds cannot penetrate it. It creates a near-permanent barrier that dramatically reduces weed growth between your paving. Applying polymeric sand is a one-afternoon project that will save you literally hours of weeding every single year going forward. For me, it is one of the best value-for-effort upgrades you can do to any patio or driveway. Here's a quick tip for application. Make sure your joints are completely clean and dry before you start. Brush the sand in thoroughly, ensuring every joint is packed to the top. Then, mist the surface gently with water. Do not blast it with a hose. A gentle spray activates the binder without washing the sand out. Give it 24 hours to cure, and you are set. Now here's something that catches a lot of people off guard. Once you have gone through this process, pulling out deep tap roots, killing off thick patches of clover, clearing out buttercup infestations, you might step back and realize your lawn looks a bit rough. Bare patches, thin spots, little craters where big weeds used to live. It is completely normal, but it can be a bit disheartening when you have just put in all that effort. The good news is that bare patches are one of the easiest lawn problems to fix. In fact, repairing bare spots and getting thick, healthy grass to fill back in is exactly what I am covering in the next video. So if your lawn has got thin areas, whether from weeds, heavy foot traffic, pet damage, shade, or anything else, drop a comment below and let me know what you are dealing with. I want to make sure I cover the specific scenarios that are most relevant to you. Hit subscribe so you do not miss that video when it goes live, and I will see you in the next one. That is everything. Now get out there and take your garden back.